Hey everyone, welcome to This Week in Android, a show that I thought we might never get started. So, with me are my two co-hosts, Lon Harris, that you probably know from This Week in Startups. Everyone say hello to Lon.
Hello everybody.
So,
Filmed just 2 seconds ago in this very seat.
yeah, I don't think, did you even leave? You were there?
I changed my shirt. I changed my shirt.
Okay,
I figured,
so you did leave. Okay,
yeah,
good.
mix it up a little.
And also with us is Jeff Amond, who is our engineering specialist. He actually is a developer here at Mahalo. So, and he actually has a Nexus One.
I happen to, it's actually a Droid.
A Droid.
Droid, right. So, but he's a proud
old
owner.
school, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Old school from a month and a half ago.
Yeah, you know.
That's so January, or December.
2008.
We should start off with a definition. So first of all, what is an Android? Or what is Android? Do you guys know?
Mobile phone operating system.
Well, it's okay. So specifically, it's a mobile platform that was created by the Open Handset Alliance. So basically, a bunch of companies got together, kind of as a reaction to the iPhone, really.
Right.
So all the handset operators had sort of an iPhone problem when this thing.
Well, it's the openness. I mean, I
Right.
think that was the big issue, right?
Well, everyone was scared. I mean, a lot of the handset operators suddenly said, "Oh my God, everyone's going to get an iPhone." So they got together and they basically created this new platform, which is it's really a stack of things. It's an operating system, middleware, and there's key applications as well. So, you know, it's a lot of things that are sort of pushed together like
So
that.
it wasn't actually Google that started it.
Well, I mean, Google was a big force behind it.
Yeah,
so,
yeah,
you know,
okay.
but it was a bunch of a lot of the handset operators and a lot of people together basically got together for it. So. But it's in July of 2005, Google acquired Android Inc., right? So they basically had this, excuse me, Google acquired Android, and so they basically had this, technology that was in place there and ready to go, and so they were able to make it, work. So anyway, the OS is based on the Linux kernel. The applications are developed using Java, so it's sort of a modified flavor of Java, and it allows developers to write managed code in the Java language, controlling the device via Google Java libraries. So anyone can make an Android phone. It's an open platform. Open is good.
I mean, that's what really makes a difference from the consumer perspective, I would think,
Right.
as opposed to the iPhone, which is very and for developers, it's just the sort of open marketplace of ideas and new concepts, and you can sort of jump in and start designing things right away and getting them to people and tweaking them and altering them, and you can put stuff on your phone that interests you instead of Apple's more sort of managed system.
Yeah, so there's a lot of advantages to it. If you have Google Voice, your number is is very transportable. You're not just locked into one operating system,
Right.
or one handset.
Got that.
Yeah, so.
Which is a nice thing for everybody who's tried to port their cell phone number.
Right.
Which was
is
like
a
a
nightmare.
3-hour operation. Yeah. I mean, I don't mean to knock my iPhone, I love it, but that was a big pain when trying to move from, I think I was on Singular or Verizon, move it over.
Also, Android allows you to run applications simultaneously, which is also really cool. So you can have music in the background while you're checking your mail, all that sort of thing.
You can do that.
I think you can do that.
Well, you can. Well, but
it's sort of a faked one, if I'm
Right.
If I'm not
It's
mistaken,
it's mostly iPod. You can run the
Right.
iPod and then you can have something running, but 2 programs at once would not.
Right.
Like I can't
That's
check my
exactly right.
Twitter and have my Facebook open in the background.
no, not at all. So, all right. So, what is the Nexus One? Like, what's the difference between the Nexus One? The Nexus One is something different from Android. It's actually a specific phone that Google spec'd out and said, we have made this operating system. We made this stack of applications. We want you to make hardware which specifically addresses the needs of this operating system and hardware. Sorry, and stack of applications. So, so that's the Nexus One. That's the big news of the last few weeks. The product is, it's been available for what, 2 weeks now, something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, 2
Yeah.
weeks.
2 weeks,
Maybe 3.
and a half.
And it was actually manufactured by the HTC Corp, so it wasn't actually manufactured by Google itself. They actually had a hardware.
Although they notably put their logo on the front of the box, though.
Right.
I think you
Of
noticed
course,
that right
and
away.
We're going to be giving one away during the show. So
Oh my!
The Nexus One will be going out to some lucky winner.
What should people do to get their hands on a
I
Nexus
think they should
One?
probably tweet, watch This Week in Android, and the
link
to the site, which is TWiA Android. So, and then basically also put the hashtag, which is #TWiA. So you basically have watch This Week in Android, #TWiA, and the URL, which is TWiAndroid.com. Exactly. Got it. Okay.
Right.
So the other big difference, the App Store, or not the App Store, the
market,
application
the
market.
Android market.
That's right. The
Yes.
Android market is open. So you don't, on the Apple, on the iPhone, you have to submit and you don't know whether your application is going to actually be accepted or not, and there's a lot of reasons why it could be rejected. So you basically submit it, on the Apple, so it just sort of sits there, and you wonder whether it's going to make it in there. On the on the Android platform, you can put it in there and it goes up right away. There's no sort of council of elders, if you will, that basically decides whether it can go in or
So
not.
if you want to use your device to jostle an infant, you could do so literally today in Android. You might have to wait a couple weeks for Google to approve that.
Well, they basically, I mean, there is a process where they remove the applications if they're not working well, so they have some sort of peer review.
And it feels like every month or so there's a controversy where Apple doesn't want to let one through. They've really set themselves up in this unenviable position of being the sort of referee now, where they have to constantly be making these judgment calls about, is this app, this one sort of offends religious people, and this one's like South Park, so it's got some fart jokes in it. And they've really set themselves up in this position of being the sort of parent to everybody who has an iPhone, when I think most of us who have iPhones are just like, put everything out there and I'll decide if I want to shake a baby or not.
Right. Is there any sort of rating system in the App Store?
There is, but it mostly works the way ratings would work on like an eBay or an Amazon. It's like people who have the apps are encouraged to rate them.
Yeah,
but other than
that's pretty much
there's
what the
no
Android
like
market
this app is rated,
Sure. Yeah. No, I
or
mean, like,
something.
is there like a 1 to 5? Because I know the Android market, you can rate pretty easily an app like 1 to 5 or whatever.
Yeah, it's exactly the same. 5 stars
so, like,
to 1 star.
I mean, I never look at the 1-star apps because they never show up. So it's not really a problem of having bad apps in the store or in the market.
Right.
So, I mean, I feel like I feel like it filters itself pretty well.
It does. It feels a little bit like Apple is kind of saving us from ourselves. In a way. And like, well, if I wanted to get something that was just sort of stupid or had nudity in it or had offensive jokes or like, why can't I get it? It's my phone.
Well, apparently there's a lot of, I mean, they remove them pretty quickly from the Android, from the open market.
Oh, really? Now, do they
have a
censor?
peering system. Yeah, I went and
do
looked
they
at this
censor as
beforehand.
well in the Android market? I mean, if I put something up that had boobs in it,
well,
would
they
it
have a
pulled?
terms of service, and so you have to they will remove stuff. Basically, it's a reactive system.
Right.
So they'll remove stuff from the system that is offensive, and it goes against their terms of service.
So it's not really the Wild West, but at the same time, it's a lot more laissez-faire than like the App Store.
Exactly.
Okay.
Okay. So we basically discussed what Android is and what the Nexus One is. We've talked about the open market. So Android versus the iPhone, this is the big question, right? So which is better? What do you guys think?
Go time.
Have you used both? I think you've
No,
just
I haven't. I've never used an iPhone.
Okay, so
I have
you dove straight in.
moral opposition to Apple.
Really?
So I do.
What's the deal?
Well, it's mainly just them being closed. Like, it really bothers me. Like, you got to buy custom. Like, in fact, the port on there. Let's see this.
Take a look. Enjoy
so this plug-in port here, like, what the heck is that?
Can you show the camera?
Come on. I don't know. Can the camera see that?
Yeah, he's referring to how I would hook the phone up to, say, a computer.
So for mine, it's a standard USB mini. I don't know if you can see that. You can buy this in any store like that. So it's that sort of thing, like where Apple makes their products purposely. You got to buy their stuff in order for it to work, which you get benefits from that. Like, their stuff works really well because it's custom designed for their stuff.
Right.
On the other hand, I can go in any store and buy a charger for my phone. I can buy a phone charger. I can buy a car charger. Easily.
It does. As Jeff said, there are advantages and disadvantages. I mean, there is that moment of, it's sort of the same ads and disads that you would have with like PC versus Mac.
Right.
Where one is that it's a lot more open. There's a lot more freedom. If you know what you're doing, there's all these opportunities open to you to explore and experiment and try new stuff out. Apple's really designed for people who don't know, don't care, don't have the time. Yeah. There's that moment of, I mean, this is a prime example of, if I want to get a new sort of, charger for my phone, I go to just the Apple Store, I buy it, they're all identical, it's in a black box, it says right on it what it is a charger, and I buy it, whereas if I want to get a mini USB, I could go to Radio Shack and there are literally dozens of options. Which one's good, which one's bad?
That's true.
I have to know what I'm doing, I have to have agency and understand that first. And I feel like that is sort of a just dividing line between the customer base of these two products.
Yeah, and I don't mean to knock Apple too much because
Well,
I personally
it's been a
don't
hugely
use it,
successful product. I mean, there's 55 million of them out there right now.
And they've done a lot for the mobile market, and just in terms of
woke everyone up.
competition. Exactly, yeah. So, but I personally won't use it, so that's just my thing.
Okay, so let's go to our next segment, which is our app of the week this week. Well, actually, why don't we do a little opening segment?
All right.
Yeah, so app of the week this week is Double Twist, and here to tell us about it is actually I think we had a last minute change here.
Oh no!
Yeah, Vidya Rivella, VP of Marketing of Double Twist. Vidya, you there?
I am.
Why, hello.
How are you?
Thank you. Good. We're well. Good to thank you for joining us.
This is
problem.
exciting.
This is pretty exciting. It's our third show.
It's amazing.
Well, our first show doing this, but third show here in the studio. So, so Vidya, why don't you tell us a bit about your application and what it does, and where we can find it.
Great. So Double Twist isn't actually on the Android phone. It is a piece of desktop software that works on PCs and Macs, and it allows you to move all of your music, videos, and photos to and from your phone. So it basically works like an open iTunes, and you can import all of your iTunes playlists. You can do everything that iTunes does. It just doesn't restrict you to Apple devices.
Gotcha, but I could use it with my Android device, right?
You can. Actually, we have a lot of Android users.
Okay. So, is it like the apps? Is it like the iTunes App Store in the sense that I purchase the music? I assume it is, right?
So there's both. It finds all of the music that's currently on your device. So say you've ripped some CDs, you bought stuff on iTunes. As long as it's not DRM'd, you can move it directly to and from your phone. And if you're in the US, you can also use the Amazon MP3 store. We have it built directly into the desktop app. So it's completely seamless. You just sign in with your Amazon account, no new passwords or anything needed, and you can get started right away.
Do you need? Go ahead. You had a question?
I was just going to say, it works amazingly well. Jason and I have tried it out, and I shared with him. He is not familiar with the band My Morning Jacket, so I moved some of my Morning Jacket albums from my computer seamlessly right over to his, I believe, his Nexus One.
Oh, wow.
And the experience, I mean, it's really seamless. Just works instantly like a charm. It's very iTunesy in that, where it's drag and drop, and then it's done, and there's no. It's not asking you to run DLLs or any of the stuff you would expect.
No, and we don't force you to just use one device and one app. So you can transfer stuff and augment his music collection versus with iTunes, it has to be a full sync.
Yeah, people. I mean, a lot of people are rave about your product. So clearly, you've got a lot of mind share out there. So you're doing well.
I got a question for you. How does this differ from just a file manager?
Well, we offer things like playlist support and syncing of those playlists. So that's on the music side. On the photo side,
is it instant syncing? So like, say I have my phone plugged in and I change something on my computer, is it automatically sync over to my phone then?
If that's the setting you've chosen for that phone.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and with video, we also do transcoding, because with these devices, you just never know what bitrate you need and what resolution you need. So we've actually figured all of that out for you. So if you want to move any videos back and forth, we do that without any conversion issues.
Cool.
I like it.
Nice. So now, how do you guys make money? What is your business model?
Well, a couple of things. Right now, we do take a rev share on any music that's bought through the Amazon store. So that's one way, and we will be offering a premium version in the future with some extra features. But this core application will always be free, the syncing and all of that.
Cool. And so I assume we can get it at doubletwist.com?
That's correct.
Right. Anything else you want to tell us?
I just wanted to point out that all of the reviews have shown that people love Android phones, but they don't have a desktop syncing software, and that's actually been the biggest criticism in most reviews of the Droid and of the Nexus One, and they've all pointed us out as the preferred solution.
Oh, cool.
And we work with more than just Android. We work with anything, like Palm Pres, PSPs, flip cameras. It's not just for music and phones.
Got it. Okay, well, Vidya, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so now let's go to our next segment, which is Android Open Lines. Woohoo! So, well, I think we have a graphic for that as well. Amazing.
Do we have
I think we do have
graphics? Was Terry Gilliam
I'd actually never seen that full one. This
funny.
is the first time I've seen that full one.
We brought Terry Gilliam in to do these
Yeah.
animations. It's amazing.
I saw it before they added a little stream, so it just looked like two androids drinking out of keg cups. I was a
was
little
pretty funny.
confused.
That'd be fun.
Thought maybe there was a break between, where, toss a few back.
Cool. Okay, so we have Chris Sawyers on the line, Android Addict. Chris,
Hi,
are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah, I can hear you fine. Are you? Do we have video for him or not?
I think this is just a. Oh, there we
There we
go.
go. Yeah, no, I
Look
thought
at
we did.
him
Now we can see you.
with your blue shirt and everything.
Thank you.
Nicely done.
We can see you.
Nicely done. So, Chris, you're a developer and you're an
I
Android
am.
addict. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what you're working on right now?
Okay, recently I have been working on ROM development, which is taking the Android operating system and building it for existing phones. I've got a MyTouch 3G, which has a very similar hardware set to the G1. And I've actually, just yesterday, I released a 2.1 ROM, which is the version of the operating system, excuse me, that's currently running on the Nexus 1.
Okay. So explain. So when you say a ROM, break that down so people who are non-technical can understand exactly what you're talking about there.
Right, and what we do is we build, since Android is open source, we actually build the operating system from the public source code repositories.
So you can basically
And-
take the operating system, you can change it, you can modify it, you know, all those kinds of things. So basically you can create your own version of Android.
Exactly.
Okay. So you're working, and so the thing that you're working on is really kind of plumbing. It's not really an app per se.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it makes making these mods easier, or it makes this possible.
It keeps you on the bleeding edge. So for those users out there who are like me and like Android and like to keep up with it, you can be running, you know, some of the new applications if you've got the hardware support for it before your carrier actually pushes out that update.
Okay. Cool. And now, applications are developed in Java? That's my understanding, right? So, but it's not. Is it the same flavor of Java that we're all used to from the laptop environments, or is it somehow different?
It's actually the same. I don't have all that much of a Java background. I've just been picking it up as I've been working with Android, but it's been very easy to pick up. And anybody that knows Java or has a good foundation in a programming language should be able to pick it up pretty quickly. The API and all the development tools provided by the Android project are very easy to use, and they're documented fairly well. There's some cases where they're not, but the source code is there for the whole platform, so you can, if you know enough about that, you can look into it and try to figure things out on your own as well.
So have you done application development on the iPhone, or is this your first time doing anything like this?
I've done on the BlackBerry and.
Okay, so you've done some of the platforms.
Yeah.
And how would you say it compares? Is this easier, harder, about the same?
It's very easy. They've got a great SDK out there. There's a nice Eclipse plugin. Eclipse is a very popular source code editor.
Right.
And to start your first program, it's basically file new, and you've got a Hello World application.
Okay. And so when you say, so it's Java, but there's libraries that Google provides, right, that you use that are specific to the Android operating system. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So what else, before the show, you were telling me you were working on something else also. What was the other bit that you were working on?
The kind of a behind-the-scenes thing that I've just been playing around with. Right now, there is push support in Android as far as Gmail and Contact Sync, and with Android 2.0, there's also Exchange.
Right.
But there's really no good way for developers to provide push support in their applications. So when you've got a Twitter client running, it's actually polling Twitter servers. Every couple minutes you can set the refresh frequency.
Okay. So you have a polling. So basically you have to do it via polling. You're actually implementing true push. So that's
Exactly.
So like for example, on my iPhone, if on my Facebook app, somebody posts a new picture or something like that, I get a notification right away.
Yeah.
That says, oh, someone just posted a new picture.
You've been tagged in a photo.
Right. Exactly. So this
Right.
is basically what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Okay. And how far along are you with this?
It's just something I've been working on over the past couple months. I haven't really tried to make it public or big or anything like that. But if somebody comes along and beats me to it, that's fine. I'm just having fun with it.
Got it.
Okay. Where are you plugging that in?
It's actually using XMPP, which is it's
a
basically a
chat
messaging protocol, Jabber.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So you're just creating a library that then an app could use to do that?
Right.
Cool.
And where are you calling from, by the way?
I'm in Gainesville, Florida.
Gainesville, Florida. Oh, cool. Okay. What's weather like there?
It is cold.
Oh, really? Well, it's pretty rainy here.
Yeah,
We're getting.
it is.
We've had like
Hail.
a 5-day monsoon here in LA. So.
It's
Yeah.
been ludicrous out there. We're
mean,
not prepared for it.
In the
around
building we're
here.
in right now, basically yesterday it rained it hailed and lightninged at the same time, and basically it sounded like somebody was dumping, tons of sand on the roof here.
I think it's the issue is that people in LA are so ill-prepared for weather that they all freak out, and it makes it way worse. Like, it would be no problem to get around. It's just a little rain.
Yeah, well, I think yesterday was a little extreme.
But everybody just goes like, oh, what am I going to do? And then they drive 2 miles an hour, and then they
yesterday was, I mean, yesterday was out of control. Come on. That was a real storm.
It's wet and rainy, but come on. He's in Florida. They actually have
literal
actual monsoons there.
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. I got to give you props for that.
According to my Android weather app, it says
Oh,
sunny.
no.
So it's supposed to be sunny tomorrow and Sunday.
Are we going to have, like, dueling phones?
I think we should.
Yeah. That's
New
well,
segment.
that'll be a segment.
New segment.
We'll have, like, an Android playing a banjo up there.
Okay. All right, Chris, listen, I don't want to keep you too long. Thank you so much for coming on. We appreciate it.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Thanks.
Okay. All right, so let's move on to the news.
More graphics.
All right, you're going. Remember to go that way.
Your
Take
mic,
your
don't forget your mic.
microphone.
Oh, we're back.
Oh, we're back. Okay, so we're still getting set up here on this side of the
Live
news.
shows.
So it's always exciting having a live show.
We got a news lady coming on.
We do.
Who is our news lady?
Well, it's Melissa June Rowley, who is basically somebody who's very well known. That's great.
Come
it's all right.
on
It's the first show. We're going to do
It's
it.
the debut.
Okay, so I
the
can
way
make
it's-
a lot of mistakes.
Yes,
Okay.
please.
That's the way these go. It's a little rough,
Come
always
on.
rough out of the gate a little bit. So.
It's like This Week in Startups number 85, and I still make mistakes all the time.
Just the way it is. Okay.
It's just how it goes.
All right, so welcome. This is
Thank
Melissa
you.
June Rowley to the
Yes.
show. So thank you for coming. Appreciate you having
Thank
here.
you for having me.
So tell us, Melissa, what's going on in the news this week?
Well, starting out, venture capitalist Bill Gurley said in a recent post on his blog Above the Crowd that asking iPhone or Android is the wrong question. It doesn't matter if Android is better than iPhone, it just has to be better than everything else, and he says it is. He went on to say that over time, Android will own the vastly large lower-end market, and Apple will own the high-end. Exactly the same scenario as PCs versus Macs in the early 90s. Is Gurley right?
Well, I think that there's a good reason why he may be right, actually. So actually, if you can go to my screen here, is that possible? You guys got the screen? There we go. Okay, so this is actually from Bill Gurley's blog. His blog is called Above the Crowd, by the way, really great blog. This is how he sees the market shaking out, which is, it's pretty, he pretty much thinks that other handsets, which include Android, obviously, are going to be dominant. And the reasoning behind it is that the cost of ownership, the total cost of ownership is a lot lower, and it's a lot more open. And that's really the big one, is that anyone can make an Android device, right? So you have the handset carriers competing with each other on the device level, and anyone can, the operating system is open, so anyone can modify it and improve it. And also, the applications are extremely open, and you don't have this sort of tight control like Apple has.
I agree with all that, but at the same time, I feel like being in an insidery tech sort of crowd, you get a little bit of a strange, skewed view of how important that is to a lot of people. I think that there needs to be that one app or that one thing you can do with a non-iPhone phone that you can't do with an iPhone that everyone wants to do. And I think if that day came along, we would see a lot of people decide like, oh, I don't know about my iPhone anymore. But we're not there yet. Frankly, people aren't convinced yet that they're really being impacted by Apple's sort of closed-off philosophy. For right now, pretty much anything most people want to do with their phone, you can do on an iPhone, and it's really easy, and it works.
Right.
So I feel like it's possible that that is the future, that's what's coming, but I don't think I'm not convinced yet that there hasn't been that one thing that, oh, well, you have to be able to, once we can like touch phones and you can exchange a song with your friend when you touch phones and everybody wants to do it, and it becomes like the Twilight kids are doing it, and it becomes a cultural phenomenon, then Apple will need to figure out how to let people do it or lose.
Right.
But for now, that doesn't exist yet. It's all this very sort of insidery, like, well, I want to be able to do, all these other kinds of things that, maybe the upper most educated part of the market wants to do. Most people don't care. They're just happy to have something that's neat and looks pretty and that they touch.
Well, I just learned something last night. I was talking to somebody who uses an Android, and he was saying the reason he prefers it to the iPhone is because you can run two different systems at once.
Sure.
So say you're going for a run in a trail, you want a GPS track your path, you can also be listening to music at the same time.
Well, that, as we were saying before, the iPod you can have in the background while you're using other stuff. It's really two programs. So the iPod is more like a core function.
Yeah.
I couldn't be on the trail looking at the GPS and checking in there on Foursquare at the same time.
Right.
Two different apps. And again, I think that is something that there is a significance there, but it's going to impact people who want to have 20 apps open at once. Whereas your average iPhone user is probably like not that concerned. As long as the music plays and they can find the map, they're good, you know. And I mean, that's just sort of my, I don't want to say prejudice against the average American consumer, but that's my view of the average American consumer. That they just want something easy and basically functional. And I just know, you know, like my parents, if they buy something and it does what it says they're going to do, they're satisfied. They don't think about all the ways it could be a little bit better.
Right. Got it. Okay.
I guess that's just me then.
But,
Well, I mean, I get frustrated sometimes by not some of the limitations on the iPhone.
Well, I just mean our society as a whole, at least people that are highly technical, are becoming progressively more ADHD. We have to have multiple platforms on our screen at all times. I mean, it may just be a matter of time before we start seeing that with our
Well, I agree. And I mean, you're talking about a younger generation that is used to everything being done in an instant, exactly the way they want it, and they're going to grow up not wanting to have limits on what they can do.
But I think the key point here is that, you know, we're seeing a repeat of PC versus Mac, right? So you have, we really are. And open, and historically, open has always won. There's never been an instance where it's lost. So, you know, over time anyway. So basically, you know, that's what Android represents. And I can't help but think that things will get cheaper and better, faster on the Android platform. It remains to be seen. I mean, Apple could wise up. It remains to be seen whether Jobs will wise up and learn from his mistakes. So he's got to be looking at this feeling like, oh, this is what happened to me before.
Yeah, I just feel like we're a long way away from that projection of iPhones being this very niche.
Well, oh sure, this
like
is over
what
time.
the Macintosh
this is over
was
like 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
This is a ways
long
away.
Haul. But because we're just seeing the first generations of the Android devices coming out now, and you know, Android's not limited to just handsets. You know, there's Android tablets. I mean, CES last week was filled with them. So, and people have put Android on washing machines and, you know, microwaves and crazy things. So yeah,
I mean, Android washing machine for.
No, don't ask me. I don't know.
It's an open source washing machine.
it's
you
a
can add your suds whenever you want.
It's a geek project. Actually, one other thing, if you can go to my screen one more time, there's a great, Bill Shrink put together a really great cost of ownership comparison chart here, which is really cool. Where they basically, you know, on the right here, they have the Nexus 1. All the way over on the left, you have the iPhone 3GS, the Droid, of course, the Palm Pre, which is kind of interesting. It's sort of, you know, in its own little universe over there.
Yes.
Very much so. You know, the number of apps, I thought this was pretty interesting. On the iPhone, they have 127,000 apps. Android's already got 16,000, which is not bad, actually, given for how long it's been around.
There's a case to be made that iTunes has too many at this point. That there's great ones that are just buried and you'll never find. It's almost
well, I don't think you can have
choice.
I don't think you can have too many apps. But the problem is, if you release an app, then you can't. There's really no way to promote it. There's no way to plug it, right? You're just lost in the morass of iTunes.
What it does is it makes all the consumers of apps totally dependent on Apple to tell them what the popular apps are. Apple becomes master,
the gatekeeper again,
and commander of the App Store. It's like if it's not on their list of 20 recommended apps, no one's going to see it. It's very much like how podcasts are in iTunes.
Yeah, it's very much.
If you're not in the top 50, forget it. Nobody knows you exist. You aren't there because there's just too many. You couldn't surf through them all.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the other thing that's interesting about that chart I was showing you is that there's a couple different cuts of this that people have done, and by and large, the consensus is that the Android device, the total cost of ownership over a period of, I think, 24 months is approximately half that of the iPhone.
That's very significant.
Which is pretty significant. I mean, to you know, cost-conscious consumers, that's, I think, pretty big. And I think the cost will go down. So, if, you know, basically there's a lot of competition between the handset carriers.
Definitely.
So, not to mention that you're not locked onto AT&T, which if you have an iPhone, we all know AT&T is.
It's not great.
So, okay. Melissa, next.
Okay. Android races ahead of iPhone in downloaded content. We've got a graphic for this, right?
I do. 1 second. Okay. Yes, I do. Go ahead.
According to data provided by mobile content delivery service Mixer, visits to Mixer's mobile site from users on the Android operating system grew 350% in 2009 compared to the iPhone, which grew 170%. In total, Mixer delivered 7 times more downloads to Android devices than iPhone devices in the fourth quarter of 2009. What do you two think these numbers mean?
Actually, if you can go to the graphic on my screen so you can see, it's very dramatic. So down there, see that little red?
Very dramatic.
There's the iPhone.
That's intense. That's crazy.
There's the blue, and that's just over a period of months. That's not years. So basically, you know, I mean, I think this is really just saying that I mean, my guess on this is that early adopters, the Android appeals to geeks. Let's be honest, really does, because it's open, because they can tinker with it, they can do things with it. So I think that, you know, the geeks are just a lot more sort of aware of things like Mixer. That's my guess.
And is there a novelty effect going on here that when the iTunes or the iPhone App Store was new, you probably saw this massive surge right away.
Right.
Because everybody's like, oh, I got to get this Super Monkey Ball thing.
Right.
And then a year or two, it was fun. A year or two passes, and it's like, okay, I got 3 or 4 games. I've spent some money buying games. I mean, I know I spent more time playing games in the first few weeks that I had an iPhone than probably all of the time cumulative since then. Because, I don't have that much time to sit around and play games. And I think most people are probably that way. So the fact that Android is newer and people are just getting their Nexus 1, I would be interested to see what happens 6, 9, 12 months down the road and see if it maintains. I mean, very, very well may maintain that consistent level where people every month go and buy a new game or two. But I'm not necessarily convinced. I feel like new users tend to really overbuy in the App Store, and then you rein it in after a little while because you realize I don't have time to play with all this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right,
Okay. You guys may remember that over the holidays, Google generously provided free Wi-Fi to travelers at airports across the country.
I remember because I used it at the Milwaukee airport, and it was awesome. It saved my life for like 2-hour layover.
So this was a sign of good holiday cheer on their part. But then we started seeing reports that Google's free Wi-Fi service suddenly began immediately forwarding users to google.com/phone, which is the new web store that sells the Nexus 1.
Oh, those
Do you think this was a dirty trick, or is this typical in corporate America?
Honestly, I think that so this gets back to the whole "is Google too powerful" discussion, right? Which has been making the rounds in the blogosphere lately. And in my opinion, it's sort of a repeat of the Microsoft movie that we saw in the '90s, where Microsoft had a lot of power; they controlled the operating system.
You mean the 1984 thing?
No, I'm more talking about the antitrust stuff.
Oh, right.
Basically saying,
yes.
When they came out, when Windows was tying the browser to the operating system,
they actually had federal case against them.
Yeah, and they were basically boiling it really down deep inside of the code, so it was impossible to dislodge them. So, so if the analogy does hold, in my opinion, that was just Microsoft making good business decisions and competing.
Yeah.
Now, was it nice? No, of course not. But business is not necessarily nice all the time. It was really the government's role to step in as a referee to basically say, all right, this is anti-competitive, and we really need to break this up. And they just didn't do it fast enough, in my opinion. So
this is a trick, but it's not a dirty trick.
Yeah,
I would have gladly visited google.com/phone if it meant I get 2 hours of free internet Wi-Fi in the airport. I mean, I was able to download podcasts to watch on the flight home. I mean, it was great. And other airports, you had to pay $7, $10, $15 for like an hour of connectivity. So honestly, I still think even with the diverting you where they want you to go, it's still worth it, as long as I can go somewhere else as well. It's not just everywhere I try to go, it sends me back to google.com/phone. Yeah, I mean, I would, even if they had told me in advance, like you have to click through an ad in order to get to the free internet, I would have done it. So I'm as far as I'm concerned, it's no harm, no foul on that one.
Yeah,
sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, they're just doing what Microsoft did in the sense that they have the power to do that. So why not?
Why not? Yeah.
What's wrong with it?
It does. It still, even with the ad, it engenders a lot of goodwill, I'm sure, because it's such a nice break when you're traveling.
You got more probably out of that than you.
When you're traveling, everywhere you go wants to gouge you for Wi-Fi. Every single place. So you just get tired of it. You get fatigued after a while of those constant. Every time you try to get online, you go to a login screen and then enter your password for GoGo and all this stuff. It was a real nice experience to just get to log on and go immediately where you were trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and Google has to do everything they can right now to drive traffic to that web store.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
I don't really see. I guess I don't see the harm.
Free Nexus 1.
Ah, the free Nexus 1. We should probably talk about that one more time.
Let's talk about that.
Okay, you want a free Nexus 1? Here's what you do. Here it is. Put it beside my head,
That is not. I'm looking at that box now. It looks really
see
sleek. That is not a box that is designed for film.
It's not designed for film. There we go.
It's not designed for film at all. You can't even see what it is.
So anyway, free Nexus 1.
Looks like a
tweet
lump of tofu.
Watch This Week in Android, which is, and the URL, which is TWiAndroid.com.
TWiAndroid.com.
And the the hashtag, which is
TWiA.
Yes. Tweet all those 3 things. We will pick one person at random. Please don't tweet incessantly like somebody did for a contest recently.
No, really? No, don't.
Yeah, don't. Only one tweet only is fine.
Don't lose all your followers.
Yeah, please don't do that because they'll hate me too, and we don't.
Who gets to pick? Do you get to pick?
We'll pick one. We'll pick one at random from all the people who tweet. Yeah,
okay.
So. All right. So next story.
Okay, moving on. Nexus 1 adds $20 billion to Google's market value. Question mark. So what does the Nexus 1 line of Android phones add to Google's market cap? According to Travis.com estimates that it will add $20 billion to Google's market value based on its target price of $659 per share, accounting for 9.3% of the total. Does the Nexus 1 actually add $20 billion to Google?
That's a big question. I mean, I think
It's a lot of money.
I think over time it's possible, but Google's end game, I think, with Android is really to capture, or a big part of it anyway, is to capture the search market, right, on mobile devices, and basically, you know, just they want to basically expand their ad revenue.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm not sure how they arrived at this. I'm not sure if they arrived at it via you know, looking at it as ad revenue, or you know, direct sales of the Nexus 1.
Chunk of the
I guess
cell
they're probably
phone
they said
market.
Nexus 1, so I guess they're saying that it's.
I think they're saying, yeah,
actually the Nexus 1 itself. So the
it will
hardware
actually
sales.
be, yes, the sales of the phone is what I'm assuming they're saying.
Yeah, so basically they're saying that the sales of phone alone will add to $20 billion to their market cap and account for approximately 10% of their total value. I think it's aggressive. If you believe Bill Gurley, and he's that, you know, big chart where it's like,
It's
you know,
gonna be
99%,
everybody's gonna have a, yeah.
one little tiny itty bitty little sliver for Apple and Steve Jobs. You know, if that does come to pass, then this is probably low.
Yeah.
But you know, I personally I'm bullish on the Android, you know, the Android platform. So I think that for the reasons
You started a show about it.
started a show, you know, I think that, and I love my, you know, don't get me wrong, I love my iPhone. You know, when it first came out, I was just like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever been invented by anyone for any reason ever. And you know, I started releasing apps and doing, you know, stuff on my own with it as well. And you know, it's great. But I think the Android is the next step up from it, to be honest with you. So yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's possible it could add that much to their market cap.
Okay.
So next,
You know, I mean, I could see that happening. I'm still a little skeptical until I got to
too
see
soon
that.
to play around with
I
numbers.
got to see that one thing, that one instigating moment that convinces everyone, oh, I need a Nexus 1 now. And I feel like iTunes, they had all those like goofy apps in the beginning, and that's culturally really all it took. One was like celebrities getting it and everybody talking about it and the hype and the media. But then the other one was when you started hearing about the games or the little fun, like Shazam, something like you can. Shazam is one of those cultural moments, I think, where you can hear, I don't know if you guys use that one.
Oh, yeah.
of course.
It's awesome. You hear any song, you hold your phone up to the speaker, and then it tells you what song it is. I mean, even just something like Google Maps being on your phone now and being so integrated with the GPS. And I think there are just these cultural moments that you have to have for your product where everybody just kind of stops and goes, oh, now I get it. Now I need, or Shaq on Twitter, for Twitter being one of those things where it's like, oh, this, yeah. And so when that happens and everybody starts leaving their iPhones and getting a Nexus 1, maybe I will be more convinced that 20 billion is a reasonable number. Now it sounds kind of.
So you're not that bullish, Alon, sounds like.
Not as bullish. I just feel like the iPhone has issues, but is 75, 80% of where it needs to be to remain on top. And I believe in the Apple team. I think they'll get there.
Yeah, no, I believe in the Apple team too. I just don't believe Jobs has it in his DNA to let go and open up. He just doesn't seem to ever do that. And you know, even in the face of overwhelming evidence that that's the way to go, that open wins. So he's too much of an aesthete. A design aesthete.
Yeah, I think well, there's a little bit of like the perfectionism of it has to be this way to make it all work
it has to
the
be
way
what I see in my head, and only that.
When you release it to the unwashed masses, they want to do whatever with it, and it can't be that way.
Well, it's the same thing with the App Store. I mean, basically, you don't know whether the app's going to be accepted, which is kind of irritating, to be honest with you.
Well, if you spend so much time designing it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if it's like, you know, porn or something crazy like that. Of course, they should say no to that, perhaps.
Well, why?
Perhaps.
But I can see it. I mean,
I'd like to unpack
right?
that for a second. Though. Why can't I have a porn app on my phone? I genuinely still don't understand
Apple
this.
says you can't.
I know, but I really don't even understand their thinking there.
Well, okay. I mean, I could see that though. Let me back up. I could see that. Like, I would find that understandable. What I don't find understandable is the fact that they don't allow relatively innocuous apps in the App Store. So, for example, when we released Mahalo Answers as an app, right? We actually got rid of the NSFW category of questions because we didn't know, and we thought it actually likely that Apple may say, oh, well, there could be salacious questions and answers in here. right?
Yeah.
And that was actually a very real concern because people had gotten.
It is. And that's what
I'd heard a lot of stories about people getting their apps rejected for
I just
kind of
don't-
specious reasons.
I just don't get it. It's like, what is Apple owned by the Family Research Council? I mean, why are they putting themselves in the position of saying what you should and shouldn't have on your phone? I mean, they don't do it.
Yeah.
I can go on my iMac and look at.
Well, I mean, Android does the same.
stuff,
I mean,
and
Android
it's-
won't allow porn. Their terms of service.
Yeah,
for
I
the
know,
state,
and I'm just
the kinds of things that they allow and don't.
Just philosophically, I don't understand that thinking at all.
There are too many kids under 18 or under 13
Yeah, but
with phones.
it's not like you
with
buy a Sony
smartphones.
TV and it won't show pornographic images because what if a kid is watching?
Right.
I mean, to me, it's the same thing. It would be like buying a TV and they're saying, well, we're not going to show adult content on this TV because.
So you think the carrier should be agnostic, completely content agnostic?
Not complete. Like if it's directions on how to make a bomb, if it's directions on how to be a
so there
drug
are some
smuggler.
limits.
No, I'm not saying completely free. I'm saying, obviously the same restrictions you have on free speech, essentially, where I can go out in public and say, I hate the government, but I can't say I want to assassinate a political leader, or I can't say, here's how to blow something up on an airplane. I would apply basically those same kinds of standards, maybe with a few extra little tweaks. But in terms of stuff like, adult content, I think, why? Why do these companies even want to be in a position to tell you what kinds of content are appropriate to have on your own device that you own?
Right. Well, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah, just like on a computer, essentially.
So
Only a matter of time. So speaking of apps,
Sorry, little
back to where
tangent.
I
we
mean, we're
began.
really
Tangent
close to the
there.
valley. If you want to start a revolt against this, Lon, you can.
You can
few
check it
miles
all out
away,
on
you
my
can
new
start a
show, This
renaissance.
Week in Porn, starting next week.
So speaking of apps, a new service called iSites released a tool that will allow you to publish apps to both the iPhone and Android platform simultaneously. This tool will let publishers easily syndicate media to users with basic features like browsing and marking favorite items. Will app developers build for both platforms now? And will we start seeing more write once published to both tools like this?
Well, my understanding of this particular tool set is that it's actually fairly simple. So
Takes
if-
10 minutes.
Yeah, if you're
Costs
doing-
$25.
Well, if you're doing something, well, I mean, what I mean is if you're doing something like Mobile Roadie, I think is a competitor to them. So, and basically, it's for like if a personality wants to syndicate their content to their audience, right? So
The Sean Percival
the
app.
Sean Percival
That's
app. I
what
was
you're
thinking of
referring
Shira, but yes,
The Shira Lazar app as well.
They both
yes.
have apps.
They both
right?
have
They
apps.
both have their own apps, and it's pretty much all about that you get their when they're on TV, you get like little video clips or pictures or blog posts or whatever, right? So it's pretty much just shoving content down. So that's a fairly simple app to split into two platforms. It's not that complicated. If it's something like oh God, I don't know, Minesweeper. Let's just say that's even
Anything I know
That
for a
would be
fact,
different.
anything that uses the camera is going to be,
the camera would be
much
yeah.
more painful to
anything that
put on
directly
both.
interfaces to the hardware and
Right.
device
Anything
drivers of any
that's-
sort. It's just going to be crazy. So I think that is something. So I think there's a limit to the number of write once, run anywhere application splitter thingies. But I do think that something like Flash, for example, I know that Apple and Flash have a love. Well, actually, they have a hate relationship. I wouldn't call it love-hate. And
Hate.
Flash, they hate it, and so they don't allow Flash. Flash does not work on the iPhone.
No, it does not.
Apparently, it does work on the Android, though. I've heard.
Oh, really?
Yes.
That
So
would
that's
be an
kinda
advantage.
interesting.
Yes.
So if you can develop in Flash, right now, if once again Apple decided to open up, then you could develop in Flash for both platforms, and it would run on both platforms. So Flash almost is one of these application splitter thingies. Write once, run anywhere kinds of things already. It's just not distributed between the both platforms. So, I think we'll see. I think people are going to start writing to both. I mean, I don't think anyone's going to bet on anyone big is going to bet on just one.
Right.
But it remains to be seen.
Do you think that iSites is going to be really successful? Think it's going to take off?
Sure. I mean, Sean Percival and Shira Lazar have apps, and this is basically another thing.
Then there you
that's
go.
all I
And it
need to
allows
hear.
them to cross the chasm into the Android
Lord
universe.
knows they're not out
That's
there
all the
enough
advertising
already.
they
They're going to love it.
I need a place I can go to find out what's happening
They want
with
to be
Shira
on.
Lazar.
They want to be on. Well, the thing is now they can be on the Android as well. right?
Yes.
So,
Well, it's going to be great for people that just aren't necessarily personalities, but or public personalities, but just want to share what they're doing with their friends and family that have either iPhones or Androids.
Yeah, I think it's more for the personalities.
You think it's more for the person?
I do. I really do. I don't think it's much. I don't think it's for the family usage per se. Because why would you put? Because the thing is, like, if you put it up in the app, the Android market anyway, anyone or the App Store for that matter, either one, anyone can download it, right? You can't restrict the download to just your family. So.
So yeah, you'd have just some guy with like.
Yeah, some guy. Here's me and my family.
Check out the Pete app.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So I don't really think it's. I think it's personalities. I think it's people who are like public personas.
We just need like 1 or 2 big celebrities to.
I think
do
there
it,
are a
and
few
it's
celebrities
are
that
there
do
some
have
big
their
ones on it?
own apps already. I don't know about Android, but definitely in the iTunes store there are
there's
like,
a lot of that. There's
all
actually
the
a
like
lot.
Disney Channel stars, like they have their own sort of apps, and
Yeah.
I have them all on my phone. Selena Gomez is really.
You have to have
a
something
great
to
app.
be in place of your wanted porn. Right? You have to
yeah.
have Disney.
I was
If you
really
can't get
coming
porn,
off
you're gonna have
poorly
Disney.
This show, Disney stars and porn. It's always
Okay,
fun.
so more Android gadgets are coming. Multiple manufacturers have reported that multiple Android phones are on the way. Motorola reports 5 in the first quarter of 2010, and Samsung reports several more will be available from them this year. Google also has more Nexus 1-like handsets in testing, and they will be rolling them out later this year as well. Question, does this coming glut of Android devices drive down prices?
Absolutely. I mean, because you have once again, I mean, with the iPhone, there is this and this alone. There's only one type of iPhone.
That's it.
That's it. That's
And
what
it's
you
the
get.
same price everywhere you go.
Exactly. There's nobody else making knockoff iPhones that actually work with iPhone applications, et cetera. So, so that price is it's a monopoly. I mean, Apple controls it. So, anytime you have all these.
It's not a monopoly.
Well,
you can have another kind of phone.
within the iTunes universe. Well, okay,
Yeah.
but you understand what I'm saying.
I get you right.
Nobody else can.
If you want to run the Apple,
all right, so back to Windows
OS,
again.
yeah.
Windows, you basically have Dell makes Windows boxes, Compaq, et cetera. All these people. So they have to compete. So the box manufacturers, the hardware manufacturers, have to compete on the merits of their hardware.
Right.
And that's what's awesome, and that's what will drive the prices down, obviously. So people innovate. Some of the Android devices have keyboards. Some of them don't. Who's got the better keyboard? That's going to be. I find actually, to be honest with you, I find some of the keyboards are very difficult to use. I don't like them. I think the Droid keyboard is the one I tried.
The Droid keyboard is a little clunky.
It is.
It's better than the.
I don't know if it's me or it.
No,
but
it's better. I'd say it's a step up from the Palm Pre keyboard, which is very clunky. It feels almost like a toy.
Well, I'm just like, I got like fat little fingers, right? So it's like
so
what
do
I
I.
find like when I'm pressing the keys, like I can't help but depress the physical keys next to the one I'm trying to press.
Yeah.
And where I'm on the iPhone or even on the Android, I find I can sort of tap with the side of my thumb a little
I
bit.
feel
right?
like it may just be a process of getting used
Maybe
to it.
that's why I'm
though.
not good with the iPhone keyboard because I've
The
thin,
the
small
nails,
fingers, and so
actually.
yeah. But
I
even
feel
when
like
I
your
don't, even when I don't
fingernails,
have any nails, I have a hard time typing, and the predictive text comes up and spells out words that I had no
It
intention of
takes a couple
hearing.
weeks to get sort of good at it. I had that
I've
trouble
had
at
it for a
first.
year.
And, oh well, then
I guess my learn curve is.
I have managed to adjust to the touchscreen now, and I find the actual buttons sort of unnecessary. But,
Yeah, I'm not really a button guy, I guess.
yeah, I don't care.
Well, what about the iPhone? Is this going to? Do you think this is going to affect iPhone prices?
Do you think it'll cause jobs to lower prices on the iPhone?
If Androids go lower overall, if it gets so watered down, the Android prices get lower, will iPhone prices drop as well?
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like the prices.
there's got to be some price pressure.
something of a selling point almost for Apple stuff sometimes. I mean,
Oh, that's interesting because it's a luxury device. You think?
it sets itself apart. I mean, all Apple products are more expensive than their non-Apple counterparts.
Right.
And I think at this point they've almost built that into the sort of expectation we all have of Apple, that it's like, well, if you just want something, purely functional, you can get all these different kinds of things. But if you want the like sleek, state-of-the-art, culty, trendy item that everyone has, you pay the little bit of extra money, like other luxury items, like a designer label clothing or something, where it's that's part of the appeal of it, is that it's a one step up. It's not completely out of range for somebody, but it's not the most inexpensive bargain bin. It's a little bit of their mystique, I think.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I do think over time they'll have to lower the price a little.
I think they have to, because I think that this will create pricing pressure on them. And I don't think that they no longer exist in a universe without a competitor.
Yes.
Which really they have.
They did
realistically,
for a
long time they have. So it's got to push on them in some direction. And so I think we will start seeing some You know, I think they'll start lowering the prices on older models. I think that's probably where it'll go.
What about the BlackBerry? We haven't discussed that yet. How that fits in.
For the Palm.
Well, we talked a little bit.
And where's Microsoft? Well, I mean, it is an Android show apparently. So,
it's interesting.
I mean, it's not about all. I mean, we do tend to talk about the iPhone a lot.
Yeah.
But I think that's because the Android devices are in a lot of ways a reaction to the iPhone, right? I don't think the Android device, you know, the consortium which came together, they were forced. I mean, basically, like they had a giant enemy, so that's why they all banded together, right?
Right.
It wasn't because they're all friends. You know, it wasn't all because they all wanted to work with each other. You know, they had this one monster enemy, so now it's like, well, you know, enemy of my enemy is my friend, and so that's why they all got together and did this so quickly and so efficiently and so well. And I don't believe, personally, I don't believe in my heart of hearts that Android would exist without the iPhone.
No, I don't think so either.
So okay, so we all agree on that. So, you know, so basically, you know, thank you. So we will tend to talk about the iPhone, I think, a lot. But
Sure. Well, and that's what I have.
The BlackBerry device, not really. I don't think it really has as much bearing, to be honest. You know, but I've never been a BlackBerry aficionado myself, although a lot of people I know are. Again, because of the keyboards. I find that keyboard difficult to use.
It just seems like for a while the binary was iPhone, BlackBerry. That's the iPhone is the fun one. It's you use it, you know, you just want to be playing games and goofing around. And the BlackBerry was like, I'm an executive and this is where my email is.
Right.
And I feel like now we've got so many other players and there's so many more decisions to be made. Like how does that affect? Like where does BlackBerry sort of find itself? What's its identity now?
Yeah.
Because the Nexus One, you know, maybe that's perfect for
what
business.
About? I mean, what about Palm?
Yes, they're facing a similar.
I was actually when I
crisis.
saw them in the cost comparison chart, I was kind of like, oh, interesting. I didn't expect to see that there. And then you know, where's Microsoft in all of this too? It's
Yes,
sort of
well, they're just not even
there. We were talking about this yesterday at lunch.
Well, I've given you my theory on Microsoft, which is that they have been so morally defeated by the Zune, which was not just a failure to capture a big segment of the MP3 market, but which was a humiliating, embarrassing failure that caused them to be mocked openly. There was like an actual campaign issue that Obama was seen holding a Zune, and it's like, will we vote for someone who would use a Zune? I mean, it became that taboo to have a Zune.
Right.
And I feel like Microsoft they got so personally, emotionally defeated by that they sort of gave up on the entire concept of handheld devices for a while and haven't yet recovered. Because if you think about it, like Sony's beating them on the handheld with the PSP. There's no Xbox reaction to the success of the PSP or the DS. There's no Microsoft phone that they're sort of pushing, and it's just like they're just totally absent at this point. Since the Zune.
No,
so that's my sort of pet theory, which granted is very
I don't think they've given up
schoolyard.
Yeah, actually one of the Causdroid in the says talking about Pink. I've heard about this too. So I don't think Microsoft's out of this yet.
Pink? That's the name of it? Microsoft
yeah, they're working,
Pink?
I've heard of this too. They're working on it's basically their platform, I believe.
That's an odd.
Yeah.
Is it a partnership with the pop diva?
I don't know. I haven't really researched that too much, but nonetheless. Yeah, I don't know if Microsoft is going to come back in the phone arena.
I mean, I think eventually they'll have their choice, but to throw their hat into the ring.
They were. I mean, Bing has been great, and we talk about Bing a lot. Obviously.
I love Bing, and not just because they sponsored the show previous to this one.
It's not just because of that.
No, I liked them. I liked them before they.
I'm being serious.
It's a good. Of
course, you guys did.
It's a good sponsorship because we were already talking a lot about them on the show, so it makes.
I use them. I mean, it's my default image search and
maps. Their map system is great.
So, okay, I think that's it, right?
That is it.
Okay.
So you know the news before she reads the news?
Well, I know some of it. Sure, I helped do the research for it. It's the first show. Come on,
spontaneity.
Give me some
spontaneity.
Give me some rope here. Come on, it's the first show.
He's very dictative. He told me exactly everything I had to say.
I wasn't like I was that bad.
Very controlling.
I gave you a little bit of.
We've
I gave you a script to read
He's
from.
just very prepared, which is as a producer and person.
Very, very well prepared. It's okay.
Okay, well, I guess that's it for our first This Week in Android.
All right.
Very excited to have another show on, basically filming out of the studio here. So
yeah.
It's kind of cool. Off to a little rough start. We'll get better from here. That's the good news.
Was it? No. This was good.
A little bit. But it's okay.
We'll
get better from here.
A little too much adult content discussion. But other than that, I think we're fine.
All right, so don't forget to tweet if you want to get the phone. Remember, tweet, watch.
Well, should we pick a winner, or are we going to pick one later?
Do we pick one on the show? Or
yeah.
It's your show, my man. You do what you want.
Okay, hang on. Let's pick a winner then.
We don't have to. We could pick one and post it on the blog later, but I thought,
No, do it now.
Right.
Do it now. We're live. Come on. First show.
Everyone settle down. We won't end the show until we pick a winner here. Okay. Let's see. So how do you guys normally do it? I know you guys have done it
I would
before,
just go look at Twitter, see who's been tweeting what we wanted, and then just put your finger out
I will
and
do, I will
pick,
do exactly
pick one
that.
of them.
Okay, hang on.
And don't look
doing
at
it
the
right now.
names. Don't look
I'm
at
not,
the pictures
I'm
of
not
names
looking.
in case
I'm
you
not
know
looking. I'm
somebody.
going over here. Okay. So it's scrolling right now. Let's scroll up a little bit.
You can look at the screen to know.
Scroll down a little bit. Okay, and that person right there.
There we go. And that is
J Cola.
J Cola.
J Cola.
But
So J Cola. JCOLA.
Oh, literally J Cola.
Yep. J Cola. J Cola.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. This is now your new phone.
We'll get in touch with them and let them know if they're
Absolutely.
not still paying attention.
All right, everyone. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on This Week in Android.